Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today I want to talk about buying behavior and the buying process. I know that not everybody that watches these videos is in sales, but I do recognize that we are all buying, and we kind of have to recognize whether or not we're selling and we're in a business, or if we are buying, we have to understand some general terms to help us understand what we're in and maximize the experience. If you've watched other videos from me, you've heard that it's the bad salespeople that try to push products down people's throats that they don't need. However, the really good salespeople are the ones that know that not everybody recognizes the value that their product or service can bring to them. So it really is important for a salesperson to help whoever he or she is interacting with truly make the decision help the customer make the best decision, I should say, for himself. And that really means that they have to recognize, how to identify customers who are, who your customer is and how best to approach them from their perspective in order to make it a mutually beneficial experience. So just like in some religions, people try to force their ideas down other people's throats. They're not bad people, they're good people, and they want people to benefit from what they know and what they believe. Well, same thing happens in the sales industry. If you really believe in your product or service, you really want to help people out. So that's kind of the premise for this particular video, is to help you understand some different types of buying situations that you might be in as either a customer, or help you understand who your customer is if you're on the other end, the salespeople. Some basic terms that we use are, like producers. There's original equipment manufacturers, and we call those OEMs. These are the people who produce a good, like Microsoft produces software, for instance, and they go into all sorts of computers, Hewlett-Packard, Dell, etc. So that's what an OEM is. End users are the people who buy the goods and services to support their own production and operations. So that's from a business-to-business perspective. So there are end user buying situations that we need to be aware of. For instance, major purchases, like buying a mainframe computer or machine tools, things that are going to last for a long time. And then there's the category of maintenance, repair, or overhaul, MRO. So these are supplies like paper towels or replacement parts for machineries. And then there are services like internet and telephone connections, employment agencies, consultants, and transportation. The focus for people who buy capital equipment, it really is like they look at the lifetime operating cost. For things like maintenance and repair, they look at low cost and availability. If you run out of paper towels, it makes you look bad, or if you need parts and they're not available, it's not a good situation. So those are some of the end users. Then there are resellers. All the time there are companies who purchase products or services to sell to other companies. I walked into a little mini mart the other day. They sell gas, and they sell beverages, and they sell chips and things like that, snack items. And I really wanted some juice, and I actually ended up buying a big jug of Costco cranberry juice there. And their brand is Kirkland, and anything with the Kirkland brand on it is just top notch, as you probably know. So I was happy that this company actually bought from Costco, because I knew it was going to be a quality product. I recognized the brand, and they marked it up in order to make a sale. But that, of course, is profit margin. That's one of the things that when you're selling to somebody else who is going to resell your item, is will it be worth their while? If they had marked this juice up to $10 a jug, I probably wouldn't have bought it. They're really making a high margin, and it wouldn't have been worth it to me as a consumer. And so they probably would have bought something and sat on it for a long time, unless there was a bunch of people in that area who just love that kind of juice and can't go the few extra miles to get Costco juice for a cheaper price. And then there's turnover. In the grocery industry, we'd always consider, how quickly a product sells. If you have a product that's not selling and it just sits on the shelf forever, then that space probably could be used better. So you shouldn't sell things to a customer unless it really is worth their while. They can hang on to inventory and it's not a burden, they have enough space, but ideally you want to be making sure that you understand their goal is to be able to resell it quickly. And then there's the effort that's involved. Is it really worth the person's or the company's while to buy it, or is it just too darn hard to continue to get that product to sell? Government agencies are important to consider. These are the people who are purchasing goods and services. You got to be able to recognize that they take bidding, and sometimes they can purchase small products without bidding, but larger purchases has to go through a procurement process, and they've got procedures and rules that you have to consider. Other types of customers are institutions. There's both private and public, like churches, hospitals, and colleges. Each type of organization has their own rules and procedures that you've got to learn, and you've got to be able to navigate. And then there's the consumers. These are the people who purchase products or services for their own use and for their family's use. So there's some complexity that goes into considering who it is that you're dealing with, and so you have to recognize the systems that you're in. Sometimes people who you talk to, like purchasing agents, they actually have the ability to make buying decisions. Sometimes you're not actually talking to the person that's making the decisions, and so you have to figure that out too. So there really is essentially 8 different steps in organizational buying to consider. 1, recognizing the need. 2, defining the product or type of the need. For that need, develop very detailed specifications. If you're looking for a particular product or service, you got to be very clear on what you want, what you don't want. Then, if you are a purchaser, you're looking for qualified suppliers who have that. And a lot of people are doing Google searches, for instance, or other types of online web searches. And so you better make sure, as a product manufacturer, you have the right search terms on your website so that people who search for you can find it. And so maybe it's in your best interest to purchase some power in your search habits, so that from Google you pay them money and there's a pay-per-click, and so they feature your website. Then step 5 is the acquisition and analysis of proposals, and so you're looking at, you've gotten bids from people, and then you're looking at what really is the best deal. And step 6 is evaluation of proposals, and then that's when you select the supplier. Step 7, that's when you place and receive the order. And then step 8, it really is about evaluation of product performance. If you found that the product did what you wanted it to do, and you want to continue doing purchasing that product or service, then you'll make sure that you keep note of that supplier, so that you can have continual refreshment of that product or supply when you need it. So there's this thing called creeping commitment, and really it is what it sounds like. It's about recognizing that we all as humans need time to be able to make the best decision possible. And everything, all successes in life are about making the best decisions possible. And so we're always evaluating alternatives. And so it really is beneficial if you have a product or service that you be an expert on it, and that you stay in communication with people who are considering your product or service, and then you're helping them make the best decision possible. don't ever try to sell a product or service that they really don't need, because then there'll be buyer's remorse, of course. And so some 3 different types of buying decisions to consider is new task buys. There'll be people out there who are looking for your product or service that have never purchased it before. Then there's straight rebuys, where people are happy with your product or service and they'll continue to buy what they bought before. And then there are modified rebuys, and this is when people are looking for new information about a similar product that was purchased in the past, and so they might buy something a little bit differently. So it really is important to recognize where you are in the buying scheme of things, and where your customers as you are a seller. And so in every type of organization and in any selling situation, there are buyers, and looking at who the buyers are requires looking at some terms like users. These are the people who are using manufactured OEM products, and they don't ultimately make some of them don't ultimately make the purchasing decisions. So, but the users probably are involved in that process. If you have an institution where you've got faculty who don't have the power to buy computers, it would be wise for the IT department, who does, to be able to talk to faculty members and find out what they really need. Make sure that the computers they have the right, that they're going to buy, have the right things to do it. And so they have a lot of influence on the buying process. There are initiators. These are the people who are seeking out new products or services, and these are called initiators. They could be executives in making that particular decision. And then you'll have the influencers, and these are the people who directly or indirectly provide information about that. If someone came to me from our IT department and said, "Hey, what do you think? Do you like Dell or do you like Hewlett-Packard?" And I might say, "You know what, I really like Dell because this is why I buy Dell all the time." And so I would be indirectly influencing people who are seeing it. Very often, money is a big consideration. So people are considering value all the time. So there'll be people like in the accounting department saying, "Well, here's your budget. Here, I'm an economic influencer, and you may not want to buy that particular one because then you only have so much more money in your budget." Then there are technical influencers. That's kind of could be the same as people who directly, indirectly, in my example, influence other people. And then there are coaches. These are the people who advise and direct the salespeople in the buying process. So very often, I know this when I was doing lots of consulting, is that there are gatekeepers. There are people who control the flow of information and limit the alternatives that are available. And so we have to be aware of who the gatekeepers are and make sure that we help the gatekeepers understand, how your product or service does reduce costs and increases quality. These are going to be some key considerations. And these gatekeepers want to ensure that purchases are consolidated under one contract. Keeping things simple matters in the buying world. So, and then you're dealing with the deciders. These are the people who are the ones that are actually making the decision for straight buys or making a purchase from a distributor. So everything is a matter of choice. And so once you figure out who's making the decision, then you've got to figure out, how their perception of need is, and so we call those rational needs, and they look at performance of a product or service. They're evaluating quality. And then there's emotional needs. They're looking for personal gratification. We look cool because we're buying this leading brand name, or this has got a great reputation, and so sometimes you have to recognize, if you're selling something, that you're meeting the rational needs and the emotional needs of whoever is buying. So, as we've talked about before in review, some organizational factors that affect buying decisions are economic, quality, and then service. Some individual factors are the needs. They consider personal risk, and they look at the needs of everybody involved. In that economic criteria, there's life cycle costing. Very often something will be more expensive at the on the onset, but in the longer run, the utility of that product or service may be the better value. If you break it down to, we guarantee this is going to last 10 years. Our competitor product only works 5 years, and we are, even though we're a third higher in price, you could see in the longer run it really would be worth purchasing our product over our competitor's product. Quality is something else, to consider. And so be aware about how to present quality information, or as if you're a buyer, evaluating the quality of it. Because sometimes just because you get something cheaper, it doesn't mean that you're actually getting something that's going to meet your needs. I don't know how many times I've purchased a product because I wanted to go cheap, and then it broke and I ended up buying the higher quality product, so I spent more than what I had to if I just bought the quality product at the first time. I know we've probably all done that. So there's always value analysis that's going on, either straight up as a system in an organization, or as just a subconscious process where people are really evaluating, does this product bring me the value that I think it needs? And so we talked about financial security, self-esteem, and recognition. Ideally, as salespeople, you want to help reduce the risk in people's mind. They want to be able to collect all the additional information and develop loyalty with an organization, because it's just easier when you have trusting relationships, that the supplier is taking care of the customer and people are getting exactly what they need and they're handling it properly. Vendor loyalty is powerful. You never own a customer, but if you treat a customer like you want to keep them for life and you're there when they need them, chances are they'll continue buying from you. So it's hard to make up business when you've lost a customer. It's better to maintain business by really evaluating and understanding what your customer's needs are and then delivering it all the time. And costs matter. So in supply chain management, we talk about just-in-time inventory control. This is so you're not spending large amounts of money at a time and then holding on to a lot of product. You're making sure that it's replenished at the right time. And there are systems called automatic replenishment where inventory levels are automatically measured, and then orders are sent just in time for for companies to get the product or service that they need. And so that's called electronic data interchange. And very often lots of companies have systems that monitor what's going out and help create orders as they come in. So some companies are doing forecasting. And so they need to make sure that they got the materials that they need, and so they're forecasting on sales. And so in that process, they're evaluating schedules in order to order the parts and what those delivery dates are. And so they're making plans to do it. And so we have to be aware of what that looks like in their forecasting process. And if we're in a representative for a company, we need to make sure that we're aware of what those needs are and that we can deliver on those needs and never letting customer down. Annual spend is a big thing to evaluate. Most organizations have only so much money that they can spend for certain products or services, and we need to be aware of what those things are, because they're doing vendor analysis. They're really probably organizations who are busy trying to maximize profits and be efficient and effective. They really need companies who supply to them to be aware of their needs. And they're probably spending some time doing an analysis of the benefits. And so you need to make sure that with price, quality, performance, and delivery, that you are the best deal out there, and sometimes price really is about long-term quality of your product. Our product lasts longer, as I used in that example, than our competitors. That's why it costs a little bit more, but you can see the return on investment is there. Let me help you understand that. So lots of things to consider. The multi-attribute model really something that we all use to value one thing or over another, and we do it with time too, and so we look at performance, we look at importance of weights, we look at overall evaluations and the value offered. Sometimes, like buying a car, I want to buy a new car with leather seats and electric windows, but it's also got to last 300,000 miles. And so if I weight each of those, leather seats, air conditioning, reputation of how many miles that particular car gets, I can weight those things out. And if I find a car that gets 300,000 miles but I don't want to spend $50,000 for a car, maybe not getting those leather seats isn't as high. And so hopefully you can understand that as buyers we're always weighing out value on different criteria, and then as salespeople we need to really understand how people weight out those different things of value, overall valuation of each of the characteristics, and help them make the best decision possible. All right, so that in a nutshell is all about understand buying behavior and buying processes. I hope you learned something from this video and you found it of value. I truly value your time, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it.